In today's video, we're going to be discussing removing this banana plug off of this 2S battery and replacing it with an XT60 plug. So stay tuned. So firstly, I'll go over what tools we're going to need, what components, and I'm going to preface this with a disclaimer that none of what I'm showing you right now is how you should do it. This is the way that I have done it before, and it's worked for me. And I'm not responsible if you damage your equipment or cause a short. You should also know that to work with this kind of stuff, this is energized. So you should be very careful and very knowledgeable of how to handle live wires. So let's go on into the tools. Some side cutters, wire strippers, a heat gun. You can also use a lighter, and a soldering iron. So those are the tools we'll be needing, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at a battery that already has an XT60 connector. So I see here it's the male, and that's what I have here. And in order to keep this bus or the plugs in there from moving around, because this plastic does get soft when it's heated, I'm going to go ahead and put a female end on it. That way I can plug it in and secure it on the vise. And I'm going to add just a little bit of tension, not clamping down too hard on it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is tin these and fill them up with solder, so that way they're ready once I bring the wire in. So for this, you'll just heat up the element a little bit, or the electrode, whatever this is called here. And once it's heated up a little bit, then you just dump some solder in there to where it's not bubbling out, but where it's just settling down into the pocket. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. It's a different angle because I'm trying not to block the camera. I could use just a little bit more. Okay. So now that these have solder in them, I can go ahead and start working on my wire. So the first one I'm going to work on is the ground, and that's going to be the safer one to work on first. So what I'm going to do here, so that I stay consistent with the wire lengths, is I'm going to cut right at the edge of the clip, the banana plug. That way I know I'm cutting the exact same length every time. So I'm going to cut. Now once I cut, I make sure that I don't touch the wires to each other. And I'm going to go ahead and strip about 1 centimeter, not too much. And then I'll set it down here to tin the wires. I'll get some of this tacky stuff to hold the battery in place. And right here, all I'm going to do is tin the wire. Okay, now that wire is tinned, make sure you have some heat shrink already prepared, and make sure you put the heat shrink on before you solder to the connector. So I'll put the heat shrink as far away from the solder point as possible so it doesn't shrink prematurely, and make sure we're on the right side. So here I see on the side of the connector here it says positive, and on this side is negative. So I'll know that right now I'm working on my negative, and it's going to be on this side. So then I'll come around here with the soldering iron and press it on. And for this, you just put it next to it, press the soldering iron onto it. It'll get the wire hot and subsequently melt the solder in the plug. And then just let it cool, hang on to it before you lower the heat shrink on. Once it feels cool to the touch, you can lower the heat shrink down. Make sure you sink it all the way down into the little opening there, and then just hit it with your heat gun. So we're halfway done with it. Now the next step, since we have this one soldered and protected with heat shrink, we'll go ahead and cut the next one the way we did with the first one, right to the edge of the plug. Now that it's exposed, again, remove about 1 centimeter of insulation. It's actually about 1/2 centimeter that I'm taking off. And then we're going to tin the wire. Heat the wire up a little bit and then just drop some solder in there. And again, like we did with the first one, once it's cool to the touch, bring in your heat shrink and drop it all the way to the back to where you know for sure it's not going to shrink prematurely. So we'll hold it back here. Now come around and apply some heat to it. There we go. There we go. So now the solder is, make sure it's all the way down in there. You can spin it around a bit if you have to. Alright, solder is down in there. Now apply some heat with the heat gun. And now you can disconnect it, and your battery now has an XT60 connector, and it's the right one, but still confirm your polarity. And there we see a plus sign for red, positive, and a negative sign for black, negative. So that's how you put an XT60 connector or any connector that you're replacing on a battery safely without causing any shorts and without causing any trouble. So that concludes this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content, and stay tuned because we have a little more content coming up with the rock crawler I'm working on.